Economically speaking, there is a power that Black Americans have. If they would just utilize it, they'll find out that they can have whatever anyone else has. It's called self-sufficiency. It's called do for self. It's called what I coined Blackonomics. I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. This is part 2 of the article that I've been reading entitled A $300 Billion Opportunity Serving the Emerging Black American Consumer. I found the article on McKinney.com. As I stated in video 1, during the segregation era in America, Black America had a flourishing economy. There were more jobs. There was more economic independence. I'll give you an example. The Johnson Publishing Company, aka Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazines, founded by the late John H. Johnson in the year 1945, during a time when banks, because of discriminatory laws practices, would not loan money to any black person under any circumstances or conditions. A young man from Arkansas who had a dream to become an independent publisher to talk about the prosperous, happy side of black life. So since he couldn't get the money that he needed, he went to his mother and he talked to his mother about using her newly purchased furniture as collateral to raise $500, what they call now seed money, investment money. What did he do with the furniture? He hawked it, took it to a pawn shop. That $500 investment turned into $500 million a year. You heard right, $500 million a year. Mr. Johnson built the first black-owned independent corporate headquarters for any major corporation in downtown Chicago. Don't tell us what we can't do when we put our minds and hearts and souls to it. And why am I reading you this article? Because I want you to understand that they are coming for your money. And you better make up in your mind what you intend to do. Now I'm continuing with the article. When I left off, I was talking about the importance of broadband. Now, let's get into the banking aspect. Quote, bank branches have been closing rapidly in recent years, with a 7% decline in the total number of physical banks from 2012 to 2017. These closures have increased the number of, quote, banking deserts, close quote. For example, census tracts with no bank branches within 10 miles of the center. Black Americans are disproportionately affected by these banking deserts. According to FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation data, nearly half of all black households are unbanked or underbanked in 2017, compared with just 20% of white households. Closures of local branches place an outsized constraint on small businesses, which drives residents to turn to alternatives such as payday lenders. Sometimes the biggest driver of success is showing up. In many black neighborhoods, residents are waiting for companies to do just that. Meeting the needs of those living in these undeserved areas is both a moral and economic opportunity. In fact, legislation introduced in the U.S. Congress would award credits and grants to companies that provide food deserts with healthy food. Site selection for retailers is not always guided by data-informed decision making. McKinsey has found that many chains choose new locations based on their existing footprint, expanding only into locations that match sites with currently successful stores. Since retailers perceive low-access locations as risk or unprofitable, being the first to populate relatively empty retail landscapes falls low on the list of priority investments. Yet our analysis indicates that these can be profitable moves. We used proprietary omni-site selection platform to analyze food deserts and location of grocery stores in Washington, D.C. using mobile phone data such as an admittedly imprecise but directed proxy for foot traffic. We created a model illustrating a hypothetical scenario in which new grocery stores were sited in undeserved parts of Southwest D.C. We identified 3 locations in areas currently classified as food deserts with enough potential demand to capture up to $22 million annually, while earning profits that are as good as ever, better than those earned by existing stores. The results suggest that new grocery stores sited in food deserts could be as profitable as current stores or even more profitable. The needs of residents are so great that first movers are likely to benefit from considerable loyalty and other significant advantages. We believe that this kind of detailed analysis can help companies find many such opportunities across the United States. Some existing examples prove the case, including a successful Whole Foods location in Midtown Detroit. We also found fertile ground in East Liberty, a low-income neighborhood in Pittsburgh. In the early 2000s, the local development authority had success in attracting a Home Depot, with the city sharing some risk to overcome hesitation. The store eventually became one of the highest volume locations in the region and spurred other development, including a new grocery store and an entire multi-tenant retail development. There's a caveat, of course. Community stakeholders, such as low-income renters who are especially vulnerable to displacement, may be divided on how retail development will affect them. Local leaders have to balance the benefits of development against the risks of gentrification. I'll be talking about that in a separate episode of Tyrone Bowman tonight. Many companies fail to give Black consumers what they actually want. Previously, uncompiled data from the 2020 McKinsey Consumer Sentiment Survey show that Black consumers are more open to switching what and how they buy than other demographic groups. They are less likely than others to be satisfied with the current offerings available to them, and 25% more likely to change buying behavior. Yet even after they switch, Black consumers are less likely to be satisfied with a new product. Clearly, they are not being offered the products and services they need. Exhibit 2. That's exhibit inside of the article if you'd like to look at it. Serving the Black consumer well is entirely possible for companies that take the time to figure out the needs of what others may dismiss as a, quote, niche, close quote, audience. Many products and services intentionally tailored to Black consumers have been immediately successful. Bevel, for example, is a brand of personal care and growing products created by Black founder. The idea was born out of its own frustration that shaving products made for white men did not work for him. Launched in 2013, the company was acquired by Procter & Gamble in 2018 and is now expanding to nationwide distribution. Similarly, Black women were long an afterthought for many major cosmetic companies. Singer and entrepreneur Rihanna saw an opening to create a brand centered on the needs and launched Fenton Beauty, with a signature foundation product offered in 50 shades and designed for all skin tones. Garnering rave reviews, the company was valued at $3 billion after just 15 months. Rihanna has since introduced Savage X Fenty, a lingerie line celebrating body positivity, which was quickly valued at $1 billion. Greenwood is a digital banking service geared to Black and Latinx customers, named to honor Tulsa, Oklahoma's, quote, Black Wall Street, close quote, the site of a notorious racial massacre in 1921. It has attracted financing from some of the nation's largest traditional banks. To gauge unmet demands, lost my feed. I got to find it. Just give me a second here. Hey, this is a live recording. I told you at this onslaught, I'm not going to erase the mistakes once I start. I'll pick up from here. To gauge unmet demand, we launched a proprietary consumer survey of 6,200 U.S. consumers in April 2021. The responses yielded some reasons for consumer dissatisfaction that are shared relatively evenly across racial groups. Value for money was the biggest issue for both Black and white respondents across all spending categories, most acutely in housing. But Black consumers were far more likely than white respondents to say that current product and service offerings do not meet their needs, especially in personal care products and services, banking and financial services, healthcare, and food. Black respondents also noted not seeing themselves in advertising and marketing campaigns, a lack of same-race business ownership, and a lack of company commitment to social justice. Our analysis of the survey results suggest that Black consumers are willing to shift approximately $260 billion, about 30% of their current aggregate spending, to companies that can better deliver what they need. They'll even pay up to 1.2 times more on average for offerings that are better suited for their needs and preferences. This could unlock another estimated $25 billion to $40 billion in net spending. Together, these two figures add up to $300 billion in unmet demand. This is an invitation for innovative companies to compete and better meet the needs of Black consumers. To win these consumers, however, companies will have to alter status quo practices that have hurt their relationship with Black consumers. Retailers, for example, must eliminate the phenomenon of, quote, shopping while Black, close quote. Black patrons are too often denied good consumer service or met with suspicion based on their race. They encounter different security protocols, including being trailed by security guards or having Black beauty products locked up while white products are not. In a 2018 Gallup poll, 59% of Black respondents said they had been treated unfairly in stores. Corporate parents can put a stop to the racial profiling of Black shoppers by establishing clear values and guidelines for store managers and frontline workers, and then enforcing those expectations across franchises. Companies also have to look internally and confront their history of failing to serve Black communities. Retail redlining in the urban environment is the product of decades of policy and investment choices and risk-averse decisions on siting new stores. There's no guarantee that technology will improve this situation. While companies are increasingly moving toward the use of analytics, the data they rely on may still, quote, miss, close quote, Black consumers. Lack of awareness is another part of the problem. There is a serious lack of diversity in occupations that shape decisions about what consumers to target. With which products, just 6.3% of marketing research analysis and 5.7% of marketing managers in the United States are Black. Not surprisingly, some brands have stumbled when speaking to Black audiences, particularly when trying to acknowledge social issues. If companies fail to act in a way that matches the sentiment of their campaigns, these attempts will come across as glib, calculating, or jarring. The best way for companies to avoid this kind of misstep is to have significant Black representation internally, especially in key decision-making roles affecting product design, R&D site selection, and marketing. Consumer-facing companies that want to create inclusive campaigns may well want to seek agencies with multicultural talent. Companies should be encouraged by the success of brands and have profited greatly by marketing directly to the Black consumer. Procter & Gamble acquired Bevel, as noted above, but it also established an online beauty platform for women of color that produced enough insights for the company to launch a hair care line. In 2018, the company released an Emmy Award-winning ad spot called, quote, The Talk, close quote, featuring black parents discussing prejudice with their children. Wooing the black consumer is a $300 billion opportunity, beckoning companies around the world. Those companies that respond must rigorously look within to ensure that they have the people, policies, and technology to understand a market they may well have overlooked. If they do, they could drive outsized impact and outsized profits. Close quote. The power of black boycotting. Integration, desegregation. Which one was more profitable for black America? Never surrender, never quit.